let's turn our attentions now to this new movie, Made in Dagenham. And it focuses on the struggle that the women employees, I should say, had with the Ford Motor Company back in 1968. They went on strike, and I think the rest is history. They changed employment law as far as women are concerned. The Act came in a couple of years after their strike. And Sandy Shaw was chosen to sing the theme tune to the film because of her Dagenham connections. She lived there. She even worked at the Ford factory. So just before we have a word or two from Sandy, let's listen to the new soundtrack, her first single in 20 years from the motion picture Made in Dagenham. Sandy Shaw with the new soundtrack from Made in Dagenham, and I'm very pleased to say that Sandy's with us on the programme today. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, how are you?
Hey Sandy, how comes then you went back into the studio to record again? It's great to have you back.
Well, it's like title made for me, isn't it? Made in Dagenham. But yeah, Steve, I've known for ages, who produced the movie, and he had me in mind when it was being written, and he took me out to lunch to try and talk me into it, but I'd already thought yes. And then I saw the movie, and I was made such a fool of myself because I was crying and laughing, and I had to meet the director afterwards, and I had makeup all down my face, and I was just sobbing on his shoulder. He said, "Did you like it then?" I said, "Oh yes, it was wonderful." I just so wanted to be involved in it. Such a great story.
And of course, because of your connections, you actually worked at Ford's in Dagenham. You lived in Rainham Road North. I used to catch, Sandy, the 103 bus that went past your house, and I used to say to all my mates and anybody who'd listen, Sandy Shaw lives there and I know her. Nobody believed me, actually, but they did believe that you lived in the house.
I certainly did live in the house, yes. I went there last week.
Did you?
Yeah, we went there with we did like a tour of Dagenham, and I went to all my old haunts, and I went to my house, and there's just, the only thing that's really left of it is the gate that my dad made. So, and unfortunately they've taken all his wrought ironwork down.
Oh no!
Yeah, it was
because that was the easy way to spot your house, was the gate.
Yeah, well, it's just one tiny bit of the gate left, but that's there.
Did you actually go inside?
No, I didn't go inside, but I think I'm going to get a blue plaque on the gate.
Fantastic.
Do you think we can get one of those?
Shall we start a campaign?
Yes, wouldn't that be
Sandy
cool?
Shaw lived here.
Yeah, how about that?
and of course, it's so right for you, this movie, because you did work at Ford's in Dagenham. Did you actually work in that department?
No, I didn't. I was in the kind of offices type department. It's a bit slightly posher.
Yeah.
But not really. And I'm still in contact with the women that I worked with there. I was only there for 6 weeks because I said I was filling in before I became a star. They thought I was nuts, but...
How right you were, eh? But did you have an affinity with those girls? Because in the movie, you know, we see the girls working on the line, yeah, and you knew exactly what was going on.
That's exactly. That's why I was sobbing so much, because I thought, I know these women; they are so wonderful, and I just really felt at home. And when I went back and I met some of the original women that were in the strike, they felt like my family. They're really lovely. Hi, ladies, if you're listening. Yeah, I felt a really strong connection.
So you felt that the film really summed up the true feelings back in the 60s, then? They got it spot on?
But not just in the 60s, it's like that, the feeling of community from those people, people tend to think it's northerners that are warm and southerners are a bit stuck up, but it's not true. When you go back to Essex, I feel an incredible warmth and resonance with the people, and I feel an incredible love from them as well.
Let's talk a bit about your music, Sandy, and great to have you back in the studio. Is this something now that's going to be back in your life? Are you going to be making more records?
Oh, nag. Everybody's nagging me about singing at the moment. Well, they often do. I don't mind, really. I'm just protesting a little too much. I'm very reticent about it, because I don't want to... I never wanted to sort of, like, recreate anything from the past. I just wanted to keep going. But I think I've reached a stage now where I just want to celebrate the things that I have achieved, the things that I can do really well. So it's on the cards that I'll come up with a new album next year. It was something that's a really good pop album. I'm a really good pop singer.
No. Have you got any experience?
A little.
I'm just thinking back to those days then in the 60s when it all kicked off for you. Just talk me through how it happened, Sandy.
Oh, I was when I was at school, I used to go and sing in what was the Romford Odeon and for Saturday morning pictures. I did that so that I could maybe go and see one of the acts in the evening. I saw Roy Orbison there and the Beatles on the strength of singing in the morning. And I used to sing in dance halls. I used to sing down the Ilford Pally, and I used to, I can't remember the names, just lots of local dance halls. And for nothing, usually, sometimes the band would buy me a new frock because I was wilting a bit. But while I was at Falls, I continued to do that, and I was in a song contest in the Ilford Pally, and I came second. And a guy came up to me afterwards and said, I know a guy that could help you. Oh yeah, I thought, but he was real, and his uncle was producing a show in Hammersmith in London, and I auditioned for him and he put me on the show, and Adam Faith was on the show, and the Roulettes and the Hollies, and I was just gawping at them because, like, I just so wanted to be like a lady version of them. And they thought I was brilliant, and they were all over me like a rash after I'd finished singing. And Adam introduced me to his manager, and I was right. I just suddenly became a star. It was as quick and as easy as that.
Pie Records signed you up, and the first disc, As Long As You're Happy Baby, sadly didn't chart.
No, sadly it didn't. But I think I rather like it in retrospect.
But of course the follow-up, always something there to remind me, went straight to number one.
Yeah, it's like a lost leader. You always have to have something that opens it up. And what happened with the first record is that I was asked to go on all the shows like Ready Steady Go because they just loved who I was, and they was kind of waiting for me to come up with the song. So as soon as I hit the button with the right song, they all sort of wanted to really support it, and it went, it's just sold thousands and thousands of copies, much more than it ever sell today. But and it was very immediate.
And I know you've told the story before, but for those who haven't met you, Sandy, just tell us about this performing barefoot and how that happened.
Oh, I always used to go barefoot anyway when I was young, and because my feet always hurt. And I just thought it was like cool and a bit sort of, beatnik. Strange, isn't it? A girl in Dagenham doing that. But anyway, when I went to my first recording, when I was recording As Long As You're Happy Baby, they all stopped recording and said, put your shoes on, Sam, because it's, you'll get splinters. And I said, no, I feel much more comfortable doing this. And there was this huge argument going on, and then somebody said, but she seems to sing better with her shoes off, so let her stay like that. So I stayed like that ever since.
It's so funny because, there was I watching you on the telly, and Mum used to say to me, why doesn't that girl put her shoes on? Exactly that. She'll get splinters and she'll regret it.
Well, it's very kind of an iconic thing to do. I mean, it's got lots of messages in it. It sort of like says, it's always like Cinderella had bare feet before she became a princess.
Yeah.
And it's also things like your feet on the ground. It's kind of a bit racy. It's sexy without showing anything you don't want to. It hints at things. Lots of different things. I like that it's kind of, I'm still a peasant at heart, that kind of thing. Relaxed, casual. It's got a lot to it. It's not just taking your shoes off.
Not just a gimmick.
No, not really. I mean, it must have been strong because so many people have tried to copy it since then.
Yeah.
I always regard it as an homage. I never take offence.
Good. I'm glad about that. And I want to ask you about, all of the songs you recorded, all the hits that you had. I mean, do you have a particular favourite that still, you still think, yeah, that was the one for me?
No, I don't. I love them all. You go on and off them. I don't listen to my music at all, except when I have to. And so it's a great surprise to me when I hear them again. I think, oh, yeah, that's rather nice. So,
Well, you'll hear plenty of them on BBC Essex, I tell you, because we're still pumping them out. And I've just got to talk to you about Eurovision and Puppet on a String. What was that experience like for you?
Horrid.
Was it?
Yeah, the worst experience in my... No, it wasn't the worst.
Why?
Because it's such a horrid song and just not what I used to sing. And I was, made to do it. And I managed to turn it around recently. I re-recorded it in a completely different way. And I sang it at the Goodwood Vintage Festival. And completed the therapy. And, and it's a lovely romantic version that's kind of hip and a bit cool But no, I always hated it. But you know, other people like it. My granddaughter likes it, but she does prefer Monsieur Dupont.
I'm trying to think of my favourite, but the list is too long, to be honest with you. I'm not just saying that because you're on the show.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
what great memories from the 60s and, you know, almost into the 70s, Sandy. And I hope that you are going to continue to make music.
Oh, thank you.
Because I love the soundtrack from the movie, Made in Dagenham. My special guest on BBC Essex today, Sandy Shaw, bless you for being part of it.
Thank you.
And there's always something there to remind me. And we're keeping an eye